Welcome to No More Podcast, bringing you interesting knowledge and ideas that will keep you informed and inspired.
Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a world of royalty today. Buckingham Palace, history, architecture. We've even got some interesting little anecdotes, things you might not know about this iconic landmark.
Oh, it's going to be fun. And it's funny, most people, when they think royal residence, they immediately think of Buckingham Palace.
Right, of course, yeah. Buckingham Palace. But
that wasn't always the case.
No.
For over 300 years, the official residence was actually St. James's Palace.
Oh, yeah. St. James's Palace. And it's still there, isn't it?
Still standing.
Still in use.
Yeah, other royals live there. And you can actually visit both. You can visit St. James's Palace and Buckingham Palace.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's like a 2-for-1 kind of deal.
Exactly. Shows how the monarchy has really adapted over time, repurposing spaces as things change.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And speaking of evolving, the ground where Buckingham Palace stands today, well, it has a pretty interesting past. Believe it or not, it used to be marshland.
Wow, from marshland to the heart of royalty. How did that happen?
Well, King James I, he had a big part to play in that. He turned it into a mulberry grove.
A mulberry grove?
Yeah. He was really into silk production at the time. Those mulberry leaves, super valuable for silkworms.
So it was all about the economics of it.
Exactly. It makes you think, what we see today, it's built upon, centuries of choices.
Right.
Each one with its own little story.
Absolutely. And of course, the name Buckingham doesn't exactly make us think of silkworms, does it?
Right.
So where'd that come from?
That's from the Duke of Buckingham. Built a grand house on the property, early 1700s.
So that's where it all started, the Duke of Buckingham.
Well, sort of. There were houses there before, but he thought they were, a bit outdated and decided to, upgrade. But get this, before it became a royal residence, there was actually talk of it becoming the British Museum.
Wait, really? A museum?
Yeah, can you imagine?
That's wild. Strolling past ancient artifacts instead of the Queen. I wonder what would happen.
Yeah, it's a fun what if, right?
Definitely. A very different Buckingham Palace, that's for sure.
Yeah, very different history. But as it turned out, King George III bought the house in 1761.
Okay.
Specifically for his wife, Queen Charlotte.
So it became a love nest.
Well, it earned the nickname the Queen's House during their time. But then their son, George IV, he had grander visions.
He wanted a palace.
A palace indeed. He's the one who really got the ball rolling for the whole house-to-palace transformation. And to do it, he hired this renowned architect, John Nash.
John Nash.
He was a big deal, known for his dramatic style. Regent Street.
Yeah.
Another one of his creations, sweeping curves, grand facades. He brought that same energy to Buckingham Palace. Designed that iconic U-shaped structure we see today.
Oh, yeah.
With that stunning Bastogne facade. And of course, who can forget the Triumphal Arch, meant to celebrate British victories.
Talk about making a statement.
Oh, absolutely. Nash, he was aiming for a masterpiece. And honestly, he achieved it. But grand projects, they often come with, a bit of drama.
I can imagine, especially with something like this.
Well, this one went way over budget, over £400,000.
Oh, wow.
Which back then, that was an astronomical sum.
I bet. Someone got in trouble for that, I'm sure.
Oh, you can bet there was some political fallout.
Yeah.
Even though Nash was a genius, those cost overruns, they eventually led to his dismissal.
That's sad.
Sad ending for the architect.
Yeah.
But the palace, it kept on evolving.
Of course. And then it gets even more interesting, doesn't it? Because George V's brother, William V, who became king next, he had zero interest in living in this newly renovated palace.
It's true. He even offered it up to Parliament, as their new home after their previous one burnt down.
Wow. Parliament and Buckingham Palace. What a different world that would be.
Right. Of course, they politely declined. But it shows you the palace's purpose. It was still up in the air back then. It wasn't this solidified symbol like it is today.
Right. It took Queen Victoria to make it the royal residence.
Exactly. 1837, she made it official. But even she found it a bit lacking. For a queen, needed a bit more space.
Oh, of course.
So she brought in another architect, Edward Bloor.
Another architect.
To expand it, create those opulent staterooms.
Yeah.
And the ballrooms fit for a monarch,
Oh, yeah, fit for a queen.
Yeah.
But what about that triumphal arch? The one Nash designed.
Ah, yes, that arch.
What happened to that?
Victoria, she had it moved
Moved
to Hyde Park.
to Hyde Park. Why?
It just didn't fit with her vision for the palace, it seems.
Oh, interesting.
She was moving away from the past, you know? Her vision for Buckingham Palace, it was different from her predecessors.
I see. So it was more than just, not liking the style. It was a statement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
About her vision for the monarchy.
I love that. Each monarch, they've added their own chapter to this story, haven't they?
Absolutely. But, we've been talking about architecture, designs, all that. What about the people who live there? What about their stories?
Oh, you're right. We've got to get beyond the bricks and mortar.
Exactly.
Time to dive into maybe the more colorful personalities who called Buckingham Palace home.
Because let's be honest, what's a palace without a few juicy stories?
Exactly. Buckingham Palace, I'm sure it's seen it all, and I bet we've got some good ones coming up.
Oh, we do.
All right, well, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more of our deep dive into Buckingham Palace.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're back and ready to spill some royal tea, I guess you could say. We've talked about the building itself. You know how Buckingham Palace came to be, the architects, the monarchs. But what about the people who actually lived there?
Oh, the personalities, the quirks. Buckingham Palace has seen it all.
I bet. It's like a stage for history, right?
It really is. And each generation of royals, well, they play their part. Some more dramatic than others, of course.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of dramatic, we have to talk about Nasser-Din, the Shah of Persia, visited back in 1873. This guy had some, let's just say interesting habits.
He was quite a character. He had this thing about eating his roast lamb right off the floor.
Off the floor.
Yeah.
Not exactly proper etiquette, is it?
Not really what you'd expect from a royal guest.
No, not at all. I can just picture the palace staff trying to keep their composure while the Shah is, digging into his dinner on the carpet. It's a good reminder that even in a place like Buckingham Palace, with all its rules and traditions, personalities clash,
Yeah, you said it. Cultures collide. And sometimes, you just got to eat your lamb where you want to eat it.
That's right. But hey, speaking of things that might not fit the image of, royal decorum, there's a rumor, a rather chilling rumor, actually, about the Shah's visit.
Oh, you mean the bones?
The bones, under the lawn. I've heard that story. I never really believed it, but what's the deal?
Well, the rumor is one of the Shah's staff members, he was executed during the visit.
Executed?
And supposedly, his remains are buried somewhere under that perfectly manicured lawn.
No way. A royal cover-up.
Well, who knows?
Adds a little mystery to those garden parties, doesn't it?
It does. You never know what secrets the soil holds.
That's for sure. Okay, but let's shift gears for a minute. From spooky skeletons to something, a bit more serious. World War II. Even Buckingham Palace wasn't spared during the war, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was actually bombed several times.
Bombed?
Yeah. One bomb even fell in the quadrangle, while King George VI and Queen Elizabeth were inside.
Wow. That's hard to imagine. This symbol of Britain, this symbol of strength, being attacked like that.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even in the heart of the monarchy, war brings danger.
Absolutely.
Uncertainty.
Yeah.
But there was also resilience. The king and queen, they refused to leave London.
Really?
They stayed with their people throughout the bombings.
Wow.
Their courage, it really inspired the nation.
And of course, there's that iconic photo, the royal family and Winston Churchill on the balcony.
Yeah.
At the end of the war.
Yeah. Talk about a moment of relief and joy after all those years of hardship.
That balcony, it's become more than just a balcony, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a symbol. It's where the royals connect with the public, during celebrations, during times of national significance.
It's amazing how a simple architectural feature can take on such a powerful meaning, isn't it?
It really is. It becomes a stage for history, a focal point for our collective memory.
Well said. And speaking of moments that have, become part of the palace's history, we can't forget about Queen Elizabeth II, her decision to open the staterooms to the public.
Oh, yes. Back in the 1990s.
That was a big deal.
It was.
And it wasn't just about tourism, was it?
No, it was a necessity. Windsor Castle, remember? That fire.
Oh, yeah.
The funds raised from the stateroom tours, they helped finance the restoration.
Brilliant idea. Gives people a chance to see inside those opulent rooms and helps preserve another royal residence.
Win-win. And let's be honest, who wouldn't want to peek inside those staterooms?
Right. I mean, it's like stepping back in time.
It really is. A glimpse into royal history, tradition. But let's fast forward to today. Buckingham Palace, It's still a working building, right?
So, yeah.
It is. It's the headquarters for the monarchy. It's where the king does his official duties, hosts state banquets, receives dignitaries, all that. And of course, it's still a royal residence.
Can you imagine having 775 rooms?
I know. 19 staterooms and 78 bathrooms. Can you believe that?
78 bathrooms, that's insane.
It's incredible. But Buckingham Palace, it's more than just its size, isn't it? It's a symbol of continuity, of tradition, and even in a way of accessibility.
Accessibility.
But think about it. It's not frozen in time. It's evolved alongside the monarchy, found ways to stay relevant, connected to the public, like those stateroom tours. They're one of those popular tourist attractions in London.
That's true. And the changing of the guard, that's another one, draws crowds every single day.
It's a spectacle, a tradition that people love.
But what about the future? I mean, any institution with this much history, there are questions, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Buckingham Palace, what will it become in a changing world?
Right.
Will it still be a working palace? Or will it become more like a museum, a beautiful reminder of the past?
It's a big question. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Centuries of history, architectural transformations, royal quirks, even a possible ghost story or two.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. But as we wrap up our deep dive into Buckingham Palace, I think it's time to look ahead. What does the future hold for this iconic landmark?
Well, it's interesting to think about, especially with all the changes we've seen. Within the monarchy and, well, in the world in general. Buckingham Palace, it's endured a lot. Wars, scandals, you name it. It's a symbol of resilience.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this grand old witness to history, right, standing there in the heart of London.
Exactly. But how does a symbol like that, how does it stay relevant in a world that's, constantly changing?
That's the question, isn't it? I mean, think about what Queen Elizabeth II did, opening the staterooms to the public. It was brilliant.
It was. Honoring tradition while embracing, a bit of modernity.
Right. It made the palace more accessible, more relatable, I think.
Definitely. And it raised those much-needed funds for Windsor Castle.
Exactly. It was a win-win. But it also makes you wonder, what else could be done? I mean, how can the monarchy ensure that Buckingham Palace continues to thrive, not just as a relic of the past, but as a vital part of Britain's present and future?
That's the million-dollar question. Will it remain a working palace, a home for the monarch? Or will it, maybe gradually become more like a museum, a testament to a bygone era?
It's fascinating to consider both possibilities, isn't it? On one hand, there's something comforting about tradition, that continuity that Buckingham Palace represents. But on the other hand, we know that things have to evolve, right?
Exactly. Stagnation, well, it can lead to irrelevance. It's about finding that balance, that sweet spot, honoring the past while embracing the future.
Right. It's a challenge a lot of institutions face, I think, not just monarchies. How do you stay true to your core identity while also adapting to a changing world?
Well said. And maybe Buckingham Palace's own history can offer some clues, right?
Yeah.
It's a story of transformation, resilience, finding creative solutions. I mean, who would have thought that a former marshland would become one of the most iconic landmarks in the world?
That's true. It's a reminder that even the most permanent structures, well, they can change. It's how we respond to those changes that matters, whether we're talking about a building or an institution or even a person.
That's a great point.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Buckingham Palace, I want to leave you with this. What does this landmark mean to you? Is it just a symbol of tradition? Or is it something more? Maybe a reminder that change is inevitable and that within those changes, there's always potential for growth, for new stories to be written.
I love that. And who knows what those new stories will be? Buckingham Palace's greatest chapter, maybe it's yet to come.
Maybe so. It's been an amazing journey, exploring the history, the present, and the future of Buckingham Palace.
I've really enjoyed it.
Me too. And we hope you did as well. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those brain cells firing.
See you then.